Well, so much for sunny. Back home, heading to the shop. Trailer's behind the truck, and we got home last night like 3 a.m. Had to put together a new Hot Wheels set for Logan to get him to kind of tire out again. And then we got a few hours of sleep, had some breakfast, and now I'm rolling back into the shop so we can get the car out of the trailer. And I'm going to get a game plan on what I got to do to fix this insert that seems like the aluminum in the head is not holding anymore. And because that insert's moving around, we're getting oil down into number 6, and I had to pull 15 degrees of timing out of it to get the detonation mark off the plug. But anytime we had a detonation mark, it was loosening other intake stand rocker bolts, which are like the 7/16 coarse thread ones that go down into the head, that have all been key inserted, and it was actually loosening the spark plug on number 6 every run. So once you pull the timing out of it, everything stopped moving. But I know that the torque is questionable on intake number 6. So normally we torque those to about 47 to 50 foot-pounds, and it was getting to like 42 to 44, and then was kind of giving you that questionable feeling after that. So go in, take a look at it, see what I can come up with when I pull the stand off, and then probably call the machinist first thing Monday and see what Mashmeyer thinks we should do about it. So gotta get that fixed up, because this weekend, let's see, we got an off weekend for the race car, because we're gonna take Elvira out of town and play with her, give her some love, and let the race car rest. And then we're gonna go down to Georgia for Grudge, I think it's Grudge Mageddon, and do some, maybe do some grudge racing. But they do also have a shootout for small tire and big tire, so we'll probably double enter and do both of those classes. Unless I'm questionable on the valve trains, then we may not do double entering, but we'll do one class for sure. And then take a little vacation, and then it's time for Shadyside to do the $50,000 extremely fast, what we think is gonna be extremely fast race in South Carolina. So really, I got, let's see, I'm leaving town this week for a few days to do some trackside tuning. So I've got about 3-4 days to really get the car whipped into shape and get ready for 2 back-to-back weekends of racing of not having access to my shop. So okay, so we've got the car in the shop. We've got actually quite a bit done since I turned this back on. Motor fell out of it. We found, the plan was to pull the heads, or at least look at the thread cert on that number 6, and the head's already at the machine shop, because it wasn't good. But the thread cert did pull up, which we were using the keen certs, or you call them king certs, but they're the ones with the 5/8 11 outside diameter thread goes in. Then they have 4 little locking tangs that go in. Well, the tangs hadn't turned, but the insert was up half a thread. So that was throwing off our lash, and it did beat the lifter on that cylinder a little bit, so the bearing inside of it is bad. And then we found what I thought was a small piece of piston ring in the valley. Well, I'm sorry, Brandon found it when he pulled the intake off. And then when I looked at it, it looked like a piece of piston ring. And we're like, oh no, we knew number 6 was detonating because of the oil going down in the hole. But now we're playing Mr. Fix-It. So I was thinking worst case scenario, maybe I rattled the rings out of this motor, cracked the piston, something like that. Pistons are good, rings are fine, but we got a whole bunch of crap in the pan. Unfortunately, I knew exactly what it was as soon as I saw it. It's a thrust bearing, a needle type thrust bearing. And in my motor, I've only got two. One on the front of the cam drive and one on the back of the cam drive. So that's supposed to be flat. That is no longer flat. The large thrust bearing on the back of the RCD drive failed. The needle bearing and cage itself was intact, but flattened a little bit. But the thrust washer, or one of the races inside of it, and then the inside and outside capturing races were exploded. I did check the in-play, which I don't even want to know why I'm looking for the RCD stuff, because I got it all in a box with a Hot Wheels. Because I got to bribe Megan and Logan to take this out to the machine shop for me while I do maintenance on the mom van over here. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think I had the in-play too tight on it. I don't really know exactly what happened. I called the machinist, and as soon as I told him what it was, and I was expecting some horrible news, he said, "Shoot, I got 8 ways to fix that." I'm like, okay, cool. So he was less concerned about fixing that than he is about fixing the head, which his ideas on fixing the head are pretty interesting. So I think we're going for an even larger insert. Maybe weld the head up. I don't know, one or the other. But I was like, you got some time to figure it out. Good news is, Mueller finally got to send me my camshaft that I've been wanting. Uh-oh, sorry, Logan. So I like to do LS firing orders on big blocks. So I read once in a book that it helps smooth out the harmonics when you do your 4-7 swap, and if you do a 2-3 swap, it smooths it out even more. And for everybody that's driven an LS, it is smoother. My turbo camshafts were almost always LS firing order when available. There were some situations where we couldn't get one in a pinch, so we had to deal with just a 4-7 swap. But since the Pro Charger has so many vibrations, harmonics to it, I think this could be a nice add to it. The only downside to the camshaft is, or upside, is it picked up about 30 thou in lift because of the cam core that we had to use. So we're going to end up bumping a little more lift into the motor. And I know our PTV was already close, so I'm about to play the degree game even more, and then I gotta check PTV, so I'm not looking forward to that, but I'm confident that I can lash it correctly on the lifter this time, faster this time. Look, Uncle Eric got you.
Wow. That's nice.
Whoa. I have that one.
Yeah.
Eric, he's not here right now. He's at work.
Not work.
Yeah. Hello. So, camera died during some of the high-speed stuff there, but I was able to get it in time So we're working on putting the 540 back together and charger pack. Let's see, let's go over some of the changes we had to do here. So it started off with needing to fix some thread certs in the heads. So like number 6 got replaced with a bigger one here. And then I still got a couple helicoils left. Those threads are still in pretty good shape, and I can still put key inserts in those as needed. And then we had a couple in the other head that needed some of these larger inserts, and still got a key insert over there. It's kind of surviving. So what the machinist decided to do was he pulled the key inserts out. He said the threads really didn't look bad on them. I know that one definitely pulled up, and I wasn't going to risk it, especially with all the passes we're going to have to do here soon. And he decided to drill the head out with a 3/4 tap, and then took a 3/4 bolt, and then chopped them down, and then drilled a 7/16 threaded hole in it. So that way we get a little bit bigger hole, and then, you know, some green sleeve retainer to help hold all the things in place. So the heads are fixed up. Part 2 of our problem that we found, unbeknownst to us, is the thrust bearing on the back of the RCD drive had effectively disintegrated. So here's part of the one of the thrust or captured thrust parts of it. So it's broken off there, and the rest of it was pretty well shattered. Like it was chewed up pretty good. So had a couple different thoughts on possibilities on that. One of them being that there's a thrust bearing behind this, and then there's a thrust bearing that goes on the front of it to center the camshaft front to back in the motor so it doesn't walk around. And my original thought was, because there wasn't a lot of clearance in here, in order to make enough clearance, I ended up stacking 2 paper gaskets, which in their instructions it says to use no gasket, but if I don't use a gasket, then I can't fit the races and the thrust bearing in here. So I opted for being able to use the races, so I put 2 paper gaskets in there. Well, it looks like that thrust bearing exploded. I've been trying to figure out why, and we thought maybe it was due to a pressure or no lube issue. So you can kind of see that oil galley hole right here. We got a 1/16 inch hole in there now, so it'll shoot oil on the back of the cam gear here, and that should help keep oil in here in case it wasn't climbing up the gear and lubing everything. Now we definitely have pressurized lube up here, showering everything to help keep it all wet. I was just looking at our cam sync bolt that goes in here. So guy, got a little magnet on it, and it's different than the rest of our bolts. Yeah, got the other bolts here. Okay. And on my camera mouse is maybe a little harder to show. Let me put it down here. Okay. So this is one of the bolts that holds the gear on. There's like 11 of them, and they are slightly different. And I just took what was left of a thread off of here, because I went to screw this in there and I noticed that it had a sharp burr on it. Well, it looks like this actually may have gone all the way through into the thrust bearing in the back, and may have assisted in destroying the race for it and trashing everything from there. So I cut him down, because yeah, this guy was about 1.5 threads longer, and now it's the same. And then I had noticed when I was test mocking everything up with these bolts that these go all the way to the back of the cam gear and are maybe 30 thou short of hitting the thrust bearing in the back. So pretty tight tolerance. I mean, it's pretty tight tolerance. It's really close. So I'm guessing that may have been a huge contributing factor too. So initially I was blaming myself on a lot of it, because I had those double stack gaskets on here to make that clearance. And when we had those oil leaks down here on these, turn my screen back on here so I make sure I'm filming the right spot. Where'd it go? There it is. So these holes right here, we had filled in with little universal fill putty, some RTV, because we had some leaks there. Well, I went through and I retightened all this hardware on the front cover, and I had set my in play before I had done that, and I thought that maybe, since it all tightened up about half a turn, that maybe I squeezed the cover on a little tighter, which is probably why they don't want you to use a gasket in the first place, and maybe that took out my running clearance. Well, now I'm really starting to think this guy was about 95% of the problem and the reason why it did what it did. It's fixed. So that's good. Another thing we're changing is we're changing camshafts. We're going from 825 lift to, where's the new one? All the way up to 863 lift on the intake side. So I know that PTV clearance was close before, so I just mocked up the head and rocker arms on number 6 here, since number 6 comes up to TDC the same time number 1 does. Just obviously valve vents are 180 off, so from the best of my knowledge. But anyways, I ran it all through full travel, and then once it was all through full travel, I then was able to preload the spring more, and I got another basically 1/4 of an inch of movement down. So I'd say we got plenty of PTV, I'm hoping. So that's my hope. So I was able to run through full motion, and nothing made touch, nothing made contact, so should be okay. I hope. Might double check my work here in a second. But yeah, I was getting ready to put this guy in. So for those with Holly, you take it to compression stroke of number 1, back it up 195 degrees for your V8 engine, and then you put your camshaft sensor in. So it's gonna go in that hole today, and that lines it up with our cover. So then once you barely see it in there, so I set mine up for falling edge, so you can barely see it in that hole. So once it lines up on its adjustment and it's going past that, we'll be on the falling edge, and it'll know when to fire everything off of sequential mode. So it's Wednesday morning. My camera shut off some point last night again. Got the heads on, lifters in the correct positions, I believe. Double check that. We run offset intake lifters, so we get enough room for push rods around the intake ports. There we go. Yeah, they're in the right spot. So yeah, everything's going pretty good. Spent some time last night and ported out the area for the exhaust push rods on these corner holes. I don't think we're moving along well enough for testing today, unfortunately. So because this motor, or this thing, needs to be where you're mounted basically. So I got it. Well, I think it's time. It's Wednesday, like about 9:30 at night. I'm now looking for my laptop. Hopefully everything's good. So we got the motor all buttoned up today. Got it in the car, obviously. We're going. I'm missing my blower vent line. I'll have to ask you guys where that went when it came off. And then I kind of got the coil packs free hanging. So they haven't really been mounted since I went to Smart Coils. So I was going to use some motion brackets to mount them to the side of the block. So these are for the valve cover on LS. So I'm gonna pop a couple holes in them in these big areas here and bolt them to the factory motor mount location. And then yeah, have the coils on the side of the block again. I like doing that because then I can use the factory Holley Smart Coil wires. So for 90 bucks I can have a set of wires in the trailer. So seems to be working pretty good so far. Had kind of a small crisis with lubrication. Didn't realize I grabbed the last Wix racing filter I had. I thought I had two, but apparently one of them was the transmission cooler racing filter. Or when I had the remote mount oil filter on the LS. It uses this 51-51-5. So luckily our local warehouse has a new supply of Wix racing filters in stock, so, or they did. I bought most of them. Just like how I bought most of the number 10 and 11 spark plugs that were available here in Kansas City. So I want to be prepared. So I got quite a few. Plus, I mean, these things only go up in price anymore. They don't go down. So let's see. So as far as the motor goes, we got oil change, lash, retorque head studs after I run it in, and then mount coil packs. So it's pretty close, really close. So I'm gonna jump into the computer here. The wires for my surface temp sensor pulled off, and I thought I had an extra sensor here, but I may have sold it to a customer, so I've got more coming in, I think tomorrow, I hope tomorrow. If not, then we won't have one. Not the end of the world. We'll just set the tune to just read 120 all the time, 130 all the time, and it'll be all good. Just cold start's a little worse. What else I got? I think that's really it. Yeah, everything's on, everything's in place. So we got the 370 gear in the rear end, it's done. Looks like the porting work on the heads to get the push rods to clear worked. So that's cool. So I'm glad I got to have thick push rods on all the exhaust side. I think as far as the to-do list, it's not bad, but enough with that. Let's let me grab some hearing protection. I'm gonna go grab a little, see if I find some ether real quick. Been running the AC a lot this evening, so the motor's pretty chilly. Where should I mount you now? Let's do it here. All right, so I got the doors open in the shop. Now the car runs. Now I can breathe. I'm going to fire it back up, let it run until pretty well warm. Get the oil up to temp. And then that'll be about it for tonight. And then tomorrow I'll get the rest of it tidied up. I did just get a text message and the Georgia race is canceled due to rain. So now we gotta figure out if I'm gonna try to test or race this weekend anywhere before we go to Shadyside, or if we're just gonna go down on vacation a day early. Decisions. But in the meantime, I'm kind of relieved. I was kind of rushing everything. Now I kind of got at least an extra day and a half of breathing time. So that's cool. It makes me feel better. Makes me feel better we got oil pressure again. And there's no smoke. So that's really nice. So it means the oil is staying where it needs to stay. Yeah, let's get it warmed up. Right outside. Well, that should be loud enough for now. So runs good, sounds good. Definitely feels way smoother with the LS firing order cam in there. Makes me really happy. So hopefully that was one of the things we had with the turbo setup that I felt helped make it super reliable, and we were able to get over 1,000 passes out of it. Do I expect to get 1,000 passes out of it with the blower? No. But if it'll help minimize some of the vibrations and reduce some of the issues we've been having, cool. It isn't gonna hurt. So it's just newer technology. Yeah. So besides the starter and some other little things, it's pretty much ready to race. Now we just gotta try to make it fast enough. More to come.